Hello and welcome everyone. I am Verna Stringer, President of the Las Vegas chapter of the Links Incorporated. We thank you for being here with us today for this presentation, Unmute Me. It's my health matters. It's a family affair. We want to thank former Commissioner Lawrence Weekly for allowing the Las Vegas chapter of the Links Incorporated to be a community partner in this important conversation. To the distinguished panelists, we thank you for your participation in this conversation. And to the architects of this event, Ms. Kim Randall Moody, Ms. Nakia Barker Makiva, and Dr. Christy Means for your vision, dedication, and hard work that does not go unnoticed. Today's conversation, Unmute Me, My Health Matters, It's a Family Affair, moves to increase our collective impact to the Las Vegas community. We thank you all. I would now like to introduce to you Ms. Kim Randall Moody.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Stringer. My name is Kim Randall Moody, and we are going to have a discussion today surrounding mental health and suicide. We have got to unmute and start talking about this issue. I do have to read a quick disclaimer. The information presented during this webinar program is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. All the content, including text, graphics, images, and information contained on or available through this webinar program is for general information purposes only. The Las Vegas chapter of the Links Incorporated, Straight Talk with Lawrence Weekly, and our community partners make no representation and assume no responsibility of the information presented through this webinar. We hope that you enjoy this webinar. We hope that you get some great takeaways, and again, unmute so we can start talking about this issue that is plaguing our community. And at this moment, I'd like to turn it over to another community partner, Ms. Nakia Barker.
Good morning. Thank you, Kim. Again, we're just excited to have this event, and we have some wonderful panelists that have their expertise in this area. So the first individual that I would like to highlight is Mr. Michael Franklin. He was raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan, received his undergraduate degree from Michigan State University with a Bachelor of Science in Neuropsychology and Physiology, and was a member of the Spartans basketball team. He earns a master's in mental health counseling from the University of Phoenix. Presently, he is in the midst of completing a PhD in forensic psychology from Walden University. Michael J. Franklin is a mental health therapist licensed as a clinical professional counselor.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, and hello.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Franklin. The next individual that I have to highlight is Marivell Nunez, who has a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management and Business Administration. She also has a Master of Science degree in Counseling, specializing in marriage, family, and child therapy from the University of Phoenix. She is the founder of the Restorative and Recovery. She is now committed to providing services in the Las Vegas community full-time for various populations, including Spanish-speaking patients. Please help me welcome Ms. Marivell Nunez Rucker.
Good morning, Las Vegas. It's an honor to be here to be discussing a serious topic in our community. Thank you so much for having me.
And the last panelist that I have is Mr. Antone Dotson Parson, who holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Phoenix and a master's of social work from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He is currently employed by the Clark County School District as a mental health social worker. And he is also the CEO of the Christ Society Group in Las Vegas, Nevada. Please help me welcome Antone Dotson Parson.
How you doing?
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring our wonderful host for today, Mr. Lawrence Weekly, who is also who will also be our moderator. He is just an advocate for the community of Las Vegas and especially the Black and Brown community. So at this time, let me introduce our wonderful moderator for this event, Mr. Lawrence Weekly.
All right. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. What an honor to be here today. I want to thank all the community partners. Thank you so very much, Kim. Thank you, Nakia. And of course, thank you very much, Dr. Christie. This is going to be a great discussion. And I'm so impressed with the panel that we have here this afternoon. When we look at mental health, this is something that's major. So to President Verna Stringer and all of the distinguished ladies of the Links Incorporated Las Vegas chapter, we can't thank you enough for keeping your finger on the pulse in terms of what's going on, making sure that we check the temperature of our community, make sure that we do a wellness check to find out where we are and where is it that we need to go and who out there in our community needs our help. The Links Incorporated have been an amazing organization for years, providing so many amazing services and have changed the lives and trajectory of so many people, not only right here in the state of Nevada, but globally, if you will. The Links Incorporated just have really done a fantastic job through scholarships, through educational and community service outreach. And, we just want to thank you so very much. So I wanted to begin by giving kudos, Nakia, to the wonderful and amazing and extraordinary women of the Links Incorporated, particularly the Las Vegas chapter. Now, to this amazing panel. Listen, this is going to be epic and our time is short. And so I'd like to start ladies first. Marivell, if you will, give us an overview of kind of your perspective of where do you think we are? Our lives matter. And we want to make sure that we stress the importance of that, because right now, when we look at the climate of this country, many of us are suffering from depression. Many of us are suffering from anxiety. Many of us are thinking in terms of suicide. We're not feeling good about ourselves. Give us your perspective, and then we'll go to Mr. Franklin, and then, of course, to my good friend, Mr. Parson, who will bring it up the rear for us.
We are in a very critical state in terms of mental health. When you take individuals that have a mental health diagnosis, and then you couple that by a pandemic that causes you to isolate, and they are limited in the resources that they have. And then you have the financial stressors because you have unemployment and other environmental factors affecting that individual. Now we have an individual that could potentially be contemplating suicide, that doesn't see a way out. And as a whole, even individuals that did have a mental health diagnosis due to the pandemic now have mental health diagnosis and are seeking help because they were faced with unemployment for the first time. They couldn't help their child with their schoolwork. So they were seeing a decline in their overall lives and now are in critical state themselves. So as a nation, we are in a critical state. And mental health is something that certain populations do not like to talk about. They don't want to be perceived as being crazy, or no, I'm not going to talk our business with anyone else. What happens in this house stays in this house. So those are the things that keep people from getting help as well. So I'm glad that we're coming out of the therapy sessions and that we're coming out to the community by way of this program to get the message out that if you need help, it's okay to get it. We are here to help.
I appreciate that. Michael, before you or Antone respond and give some of the opening comments, I want to preference that Dr. Christie is going to come on right after you, Antone. And she has a series of questions that she'd like to ask you all. But what I'd like for y'all is just to continue on with some opening comments, just so that we can set the atmosphere, if you will, Mr. Parson, and let folks know this is real. This is a real-time conversation because we're dealing with some real-time issues. With that being said, Mr. Franklin, take it away.
To add on to what Marivell just said, I'm going to add on to the relational piece. We come from a relational people. And right now, being isolated, being told to physically distance, as well as we can social distance as well. There's a big problem, a big issue, and add on to that for those who don't have, who haven't seen or had a support system where they physically felt people presence. Right now, you add that on to the mental health issue that we do hide. We think of it as a stigma and as an issue and a problem, but we have to be real about it. Mental health is real. Your mental health and you being stable is real. And so you add your support system being away from you, your support system not being able to touch, hold, and be in your inner circle, arm length away, that piles on to where we find individuals, again, thinking about hurting themselves, hurting others, but most definitely hurting themselves. And that's something that, again, we need to, as people, need to really start talking and stop pushing the mental health issues or because it's not a mental health problem. It's not a mental health disease. It's a mental health issue. And we have to start thinking of it in that term. As diabetes is a physical issue. Depression is a mental health issue. So we have to get rid of that stigma, it being something negative, and start looking at it as being an issue, something we can deal with, something we can work with.
Mr. Dotson?
You know, I really love what everyone is saying about the severity of mental health. I think there's a difference in having a conversation about mental health that's trendy and having a conversation about mental health that's impactful and effective. I think, as it was stated before, we are indeed in a very critical place as it relates to mental health, especially in the African-American community. But it's also a beautiful place because we have now created awareness. We've touched the appetite of people who are thinking now, maybe something is going on with my child. Maybe something is going on with me. And so I think we have this beautiful opportunity right now as it relates to mental health to create a education and for learning. It's important that they understand right now what risk factors are. Why is it this way? What does risk factor look like? And if we can help the community to understand the core of this thing, why this thing exists, what are the risk factors indeed? What's in your bloodline? Then I think we have a beautiful chance to educate the African-American community on resources and help.
All right. Thank you so very much. Thank all three of you for your opening comments. At this time, I'd like to bring in one of our community partners, Dr. Christie, who is going to come in and she's going to ask you a series of questions. And I think it's going to be something. And what I want you all to do is I want you all to drill it down. I want for our viewing audience out there to really get it, because there are so many of us not understanding what's happening with ourselves personally or what's happening with one of our loved ones or our friends. And so, Dr. Christie, if you join us, we're going to pass the mic over to you so that you can begin asking questions to our panelists. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. And to our panelists, thank you again for joining us. So the first question I'm going to direct to Michael Franklin. What are some of the emotional health that can play in a person's overall well-being? If you could explain that to our viewers, I would appreciate it.
Okay. I believe mental health, again, your health, period, is a four-legged stool. We deal with the physical, we deal with the mental, we deal with the spiritual, and we deal with the emotional. If one of those legs aren't stable, then we have a stool that's not stable, which means you're not stable. And emotional health, because we talk a lot about mental, we know physical is when you go to the doctor. Spiritual is our relationship with our higher power, our relationship with God. But with the emotional health, that's the part where you get your resiliency from. Resiliency is being able to handle everything and anything that comes your way. Funerals. That's what we've been dealing with a lot lately. We've been dealing with a lot, again, isolation lately. Resilience, being able to build upon what happened in the past to get you there emotionally. being able to handle anything that comes your way. So emotion is just as important as the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And my next question is for Marivell. What are some of the things that you can do or the panel can do as healthcare professionals to give some remedies to these problems?
Well, the first thing is raise awareness within the community. And definitely assure the community that suicide is preventable. It is a preventable issue, as Michael was saying. We need to address the triggers or the mental health diagnoses or the problems that are leading or invoking the suicidal ideation. We also must educate our parents in recognizing the risk or the signs of potential suicide among young people, and also our educators. Anyone that's in contact with young people in our community should be trained to recognize the risk or the signs. If you hear a child saying, "I'm just a loser all the time," that needs to be addressed. That should not be ignored. And oftentimes we see it as teen melodrama, but it's not. They're screaming out for help. And it is our place as providers and adults or educators or persons in positions of raising awareness to tackle that and say, what makes you say that? Why do you feel you a loser? Do you know what a loser is? How can we correct that? And really take that person on and help them and provide the education to the parents that they need to be able to further facilitate the help in that individual. But we definitely need to raise awareness. When we talk about suicide, we also need to pay attention to what the children are saying, the mood changes, also discourage isolation. And you might say, discourage isolation. We all have been isolated during this pandemic, right? But I would tell you that there's a different type of isolation when it comes to suicide. Children isolate in their own homes with or without a pandemic. When your child stays in the room all day long and they're on the phone or the computer, it is up to the parent to knock on that door and say, "Hey, day, how are you doing? How is all this affecting you?" Because there's isolation going on in the household. Families have gotten back to eating on demand as opposed to eating at the dinner table. I learned that through our sessions with young people and parents that a lot of families do not eat at the dinner table anymore. And that is a perfect opportunity, as Commissioner Weekly said earlier, to do a pulse check, to do a wellness check, and ask the children how they are doing. So really raising awareness and educating our parents and educating our community partners and providers to pay attention to those signs and address them. Don't brush them off. So that's really what we need to do. Awareness, and education.
Wow. Thank you very much for that information. We appreciate it. And so my last question is for Antone. Outside of education, what is the responsibility to students regarding mental health from the school that they attend?
You know, I've learned something being in the schools every day at Mojave High School, working with these students who are at risk. And that's that you have no clue what they've left at home, and you have no clue what they're going home to. And so every single interaction and engagement that you have with these students is a responsibility to be an addition to their life. I think the school district and schools individually have the responsibility, and it's been said before, to just pay attention, to what these kids are saying. Pay attention to the risk factors, pay attention to the behavior, especially those of us who are educated in this thing. I think sometimes we get so used to being with people every day that it's easy not to see that they're in despair or that they're depressed. I think that we can be so caught up in our own pain and our own trauma, even as adults, that we neglect and don't see the trauma of someone else. And so we have a responsibility. It's not a difficult or deep answer. We have a responsibility to just pay attention to what these kids are saying. I believe that Miss Nunez said that earlier. We just need to look, listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're not saying, listen to when their behavior changes. Our responsibility is to create a safe place where we can observe these kids and prevent them from committing suicide, prevent them from being trafficked, prevent them from abuse, just by paying attention to them. That's our job. That's our responsibility, is just to pay attention.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So those were the questions that I had for each panelist. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate your time, and I'll turn the show back over to Mr. Lawrence Weekly.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Christian. I appreciate you. One of the things I want to say to the panelists is that as we continue to hear from our community, and we hear a number of our young people out here that are contemplating suicide, I believe that we're almost up to 15 children or students now that have taken their own lives. What do we want to say in our own community as we look at the whole situation that is taking place with the trial of the murder of George Floyd and all of the mental things that have gone on with the whole Breonna Taylor case? And then when we look at people who are still dealing with unemployment and folks who are dealing with the housing crisis and very apprehensive about taking the vaccination, it's just a lot of stuff going on at one time. What do you all say? And we'll start with you, Marivell. What do you all say to our community in terms of how to come to grips and how to hold it together and how to not be ashamed or afraid to reach out to someone for some guidance or advice?
Thank you, Commissioner. I would say, just as the topic reads, we have to unmute our young people and give them a voice, give them a platform to really freely express what they are feeling. Because I would tell you that all the police killings among our Black young people are truly affecting our children. On top of that, we have a pandemic. And then we see all these other environmental factors. And then they see their own parents suffering from unemployment and other things. And I will tell you firsthand, I had a young Black male tell me this in session. This is what he said, quote unquote. If this verdict doesn't come out right, I see I'm going to have to sacrifice my own life to get the message across. I would tell you that was an alarm that went off, because if he's feeling it, how many other young people are feeling the same thing? We have got to do better. We have got to empower our young people. And one of the things that I love about the Links organization, as well as other organizations, is the scholarship funds. We have got to continue to provide funds to educate our young people. We need more Black and brown persons in offices of leadership. We need them even in the police force. We need them in the judicial system. We need to take leadership roles that impact the laws of our country, the decision making. We have to continue to empower our young people. They are the future. They are the next generation. And yes, all these environmental factors are playing a role in what we are seeing in these suicide rates spiking all over the country. I would tell you Alaska is the worst right now, with 36 cases of suicides among young people. But we as a community have to do better. We have to come out of our office. We have to go into the community and reach out to our young children, because they're not going to come knocking on our doors. We have to go to them.
I'll tell you this, Marivell. I'll tell you this. You know, I appreciate your comments and you are so spot on, but I'm going to drill it down even further. And I'm going to toss it over to Antone, Dotson Parson, who does an amazing job at the school that he works for, because he goes beyond the classroom. He goes beyond that office. He's out with boots on the ground in the community. I'm going to drill it down even further. And I'm going to say, I want to specifically talk about Black students. I want to talk about Black kids right now. I don't want to add anybody else right now, because so many times we're so compassionate as a people. We like to include everybody else. But when I listen to a number of their conversations, we don't get included. And we got to stop being scared to just talk about Black folks, right? So Mr. Dotson Parson, I want to ask you, because Marivell hit it on the head. Let's talk about Black boys, because they're at the bottom of the list in education. They're at the bottom of the list in healthcare. They're at the top of the list in juvenile justice and in incarceration. The stress, the mental breakdown, the weight of everything on their shoulders. What are you dealing with, and how do you deal with it, and what are you saying to them?
You know, the thing is that when you talk about, I'll call them marginalized African-American boys, you have a generation right now that's dealing with a whole lot of emotion that they don't have the tools or the resources to manage or to deal with. They're dealing with the stress and the PTSD of racism and not knowing where to put this anger. A lot of times people are asking, I don't understand why when the cops stop these boys, they're fighting against the cops, or they're not being compliant, is what they're saying. But what's happening is these boys are being triggered based on behaviors and emotional sets that are there that they don't even know about. I don't believe these boys even know why they get so angry, and it's because they're carrying generational weight of racism, but they don't have the tools to cope with it or to deal with it. And so we have to figure out how to, gosh, I hate to sound corny when I say this, but that compassion and that patience, when you stop a student and when you're looking a Black boy in his face, you have to take time and say, this is a kid that's carrying weight that doesn't even belong to him. He's carrying the weight of his ancestors. I've got to manage him differently than I would a Caucasian student. And so that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a generation that's carrying the weight of their ancestors and not having the tools to manage it properly. And that's why they're going crazy.
Okay.
I want to add on to that. I want to add on to that because literally our young fellas are walking around not knowing who they are. They gotta be Joe College when they're in class. They gotta be big man when they're in their neighborhoods. They gotta be a big man in the house. They gotta be big brother. They gotta be everything else except themselves.
Yes,
our young brothers don't even know who they are because they wear so many different hats. They got to look over their shoulders because of micro racism that's going on. When I walk around, again, we social distance, but they've been social distancing from us since day one. So these young fellas get on the bus, they already got a stereotype on them. They're walking down the street, they already got a stereotype on them. Because they wear their clothes a certain way, they already got a stereotype on them. So they have to fight and go through all this, as well as come home and get homework done. Come home, some of them working. Come home and all the different hats and all different things. Our young men don't even know who they are. And that's who and that's what I deal with a lot. Our young men wear so many hats. Young ladies too, but our young men wear so many hats. They got to be so many things for so many different people. They can't even be them for them.
Yeah. Well, Michael, guess I heard a word. I learned a word this week from some of the young folk. And I said, we got to stay up on our lingo with the young folks. They call it code switching. Code switching. And baby, code switching will wear you out.
Yes.
By the end of the day, you are so mentally worn out because you got to switch it up. You got to be everything to everybody. And I just don't understand. I ask some of my white counterparts that all the time. Do y'all ever have to code switch? They don't even, like, what? I asked the sheriff, I asked him, and they all gave me that look. I asked them, do you all ever have to have that conversation with your kids when they getting ready to go to the mall, or they getting ready to run to the store, they go into a basketball game or some type of event with their friends? We have to have those kind of conversations. Hey, don't have too many of y'all in one car at a time. And when you're at the mall, too many of y'all can't walk together. Come on. All right, talk to me, Marivell, because the links are posting some comments, man. The links are on fire this afternoon. They are filling this conversation. Marivell, talk to me about mental health with women, because our women who also have to carry so much weight, you know, because I love the fact that people are really starting to embrace women can have it all, but do a lot of women believe they can? Work with me on that one, Marivell.
Well, I still think that a two-parent household is far greater than a one-parent household. And each person has their role. The woman has their role in their family, and the father definitely has their role in their family. So please, Las Vegas community, don't misunderstand that our children need both the mother and father. We both play a significant role. For the women today, and I'm one of those women too. I like to take the lead. I like to feel empowered, but I still need my husband. And it can be very taxing. It can be very taxing on women. So we're seeing an increase in stress. We're seeing an increase in cardiovascular problems. We're seeing an increase in depression among women, burnout, corporate burnout. So everything that has an elevation in terms of success also has an elevation in mental health and physical health. So you have to keep a healthy balance. So women, yes, I encourage you to seek mental health professional attention when you need it. We sometimes take the role, I can be the mom and the dad, I can do it all, but the reality is that it's going to beat you down. It's going to beat you down. And the idea is to hold the father accountable, to co-parent with you. If the relationship doesn't work out, that doesn't discount the father from being a father to his child. It's necessary. It's a priceless component of a child's upbringing. So please do what you need to do to get them involved in your child's life. There's nothing like a Black young man walking around with that void. And I often hear it from our Black men. I didn't have a father. I don't even know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a father myself. I didn't have that. My mom did her best, but I didn't get that. And I feel like I'm missing something. And when the world is against me, I don't have a father to turn to. So fathers, come up. Rise to the occasion. Your child needs you. Our children need you.
Yeah. Let me jump in there, Marivell, because you trying to set the internet on fire up in here, and I love it. For all of our viewers out there, if you're just tuning in or logging on, community partners in conjunction with the Links Incorporated Las Vegas chapter, under the leadership of our phenomenal president, Verna Stringer, and all the phenomenal and amazing women of the Las Vegas chapter here, we're presenting this town hall meeting here today to talk about mental health, the impacts of it, because our lives matter. And this distinguished panel that we have here today, of course, you're hearing from Marivell Nunez, who's on here, giving it straight with no chaser, as they would say out there. And then, of course, Antone, Dotson, Parson, who's right there with boots on the ground in the Clark County School District. And then, of course, This man up here, Michael Franklin, is no joke. Michael, you were feeling it. What did she say as a Black man that had you moving? Because I thought you were going to jump off the camera for a second.
Well, the big thing is Marivell is 100% right. And I think sometimes we buy into the myth about Black men being absent in the household. Again, a lot of times, grandpa step up, uncles step up. Fathers may not be there, but a lot of times, even dealing with forensic psychology and dealing with the prison population, it was somebody on the streets that taught another male how to be the male that he is. So we just have to cater and make sure that male influence is a positive male influence and not a negative male influence. Because a lot of us, hey, I'm a kid from the 80s, late 80s and the 90s. That's when my dad wasn't there. Uncle and them stepped up. Pawpaw and them stepped up. Guys in the neighborhood, the deacons at the church stepped up. It was always a male around, even though it wasn't my dad, but it was always a male around. And so we can't buy into the myth that, there's no male influences in there. It's just sometimes those male influences aren't as positive as we want them to be, but we always have a male influence around from some way, somehow.
Can I jump in there on that just really quick?
I'm gonna go ahead and claim it. Dr. Parson, absolutely you can, sir.
Let me say this, and this is me being a human and not a clinician, because I'm a result of my biological father not being in the home. And it is a pain that you never ever get over. There are times where I've been hard on myself, like, what? I'm a 41-year-old man, and there's an episode of Will Smith and his dad on whatever the name of the show is, and he says this thing: why doesn't my dad want me? He breaks down. I cannot watch that. To this day, I can't watch that. But the problem is, and I love what I was about to call him Dr. Franklin. I like what he's saying about those influences of males being around these boys, because unfortunately, we have a lot of hurting men being mentors to hurting boys. And that's why we're getting some of the results that we're getting. And so what we have to figure out now is what do we do with this pain that never goes away? It's a grief that does not leave. I will always be angry that my father seemingly didn't want anything to do with me. But what do I do with that pain? Can I target it and put it somewhere that's going to be productive? Or do I start robbing people, killing people, being pissed off with people, beating my wife, beating girls, having babies? How am I going to use this pain that never goes anywhere is what we have to figure out.
Dr. Parson, you hit a trigger on me, man, and I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to do it. You and Dr. Franklin, I knew you guys were going to do it today. Listen, let me tell you something. You've heard my story of being adopted, and I see Amber White Davison is on. This was my attorney who helped me find my biological family. And Antone, you just opened up, you hit a trigger in me. And it hit me because I've gone through all that and I'm still living it. What can we, Marivell, say to, take a moment and talk to our foster kids out here, even adults who are going through everything I went through in my life, identifying and learning of my adoption and learning of my adopted family and going through all of that mental weight of what happened and why didn't you want me, and meeting these siblings and trying to figure out what made them so great that you kept them and you gave me away. Could you all take a moment and speak to my foster kids and my foster adults out here, because we got a lot of adults walking out here who are too embarrassed to even acknowledge that they have, man, I'm getting choked up. All right.
I understand, and I thank you for asking.
Help me, please, help me.
Yes, and I will say to you young people that are in the foster care system that have been adopted, there is hope. You are in charge of your own destiny. No one else. You are. And I would say seek mentors like these 3 young, powerful Black men that we have on this panel. Seek those mentors that will mentor you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to dream. Don't be afraid to dare to do something that you didn't think you could do. You have the whole future ahead of you, and you are destined for greatness. Do not let your past determine your future. There are resources. Open your mouth and be heard. Get unmuted.
Wow. Wow. Get unmuted, man. And Dr. Antone, man, listen. I'm so thank you to the community partners, Kim, Nakia, Dr. Christie. Thank you so much, community partners, and the links. This is amazing. Our community needs this. We need to be unmuted. President Verna Stringer and ladies of the links, thank y'all for taking the lead on this, because we have to be able to have outlets where our community can come together and be vulnerable and talk to each other and not be judged because we're carrying around all of these deeply rooted scars and the hurt. You know what I mean? Dr. Parson, you're celebrating your 1-year anniversary of a ministry that you started. And I sat back and I watched you from a distance. You have blessed so many lives, brother. You have blessed so many lives over this past year. What do you say to, let's talk about resources in our last several minutes that we have here today. Who, like the group Escape say, who do I run to? Where can I go? Doctors on here, where can we go? Who can we talk to and not be judged and not be casted aside? Because DFS gave a campaign for me called Silent No More. Because when I found out I was adopted, I was ashamed. I didn't realize I was so ashamed about it. And Amber, thank God she's on here. Amber, I will forever love her. She helped me through some of that pain. But it was your mother, Antone, and your auntie. You know, it was people like that in this community who came together and helped me. What can we do for many of those out there in our community who are also walking around with they've been abused? Like my mother, my parents who adopted me, beautiful people who couldn't have any kids, Marivell. And they loved their kids, but my father wasn't nice to his wife. What happens? What do we say to those women who are walking around with that weight? What do we say, Michael, to those men who are working their butts off to be back in their kids' lives, but because of personal issues that's going on? What do we say, Antone, to those young men and even the young girls who figure, well, maybe if I have a baby, I'll have somebody who will love me? Can we drill this down? This is all mental health that we're all dealing with. These are issues that go on in our community. Marivell, let's start with you. Take it away.
I would say you have to be okay with telling your story, because your story doesn't have to be your masterpiece. You have to talk about it. You cannot internalize it, because otherwise you're going to implode from the inside out, and you're going to act out, and you're going to look for love in all the wrong places. You have to talk it out. Unmute yourselves, people. That's all we're saying. Unmute yourself. You have providers on this channel, but if you go to psychology.com, you'll find a slew of providers. Pick one that intrigues you and take the first step. That's the first step. Recognizing that I have a problem and seeking help. And that will be the beginning of you rewriting your story. That's narrative therapy. Michael White, you are the alpha and omega of your story. No one else. No one else. So that's where it starts, right?
That's where it starts.
And then I do want to make sure that in terms, if you're contemplating suicide and you don't want to go out your home, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and call this National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273, and what does it say? Talk. 1-800-273-TALK is designed for you to unmute yourself.
Oh
you
boy.
Start there. But that's where it really starts. And then when When you feel comfortable with telling your story, instead of letting others tell your story, you get to tell it. Yeah. Then you get to free yourself from your past.
Control that narrative.
From your suffering.
Control that narrative. Yes.
Now you put yourself out there, and this is what I'm doing about it, because I refuse to be that, because I'm destined to be something greater.
Well, Marivell, I don't know if it's the money green you got on or the links green you got on, but I know you're doing it up in here today. Thank you. Michael, give it to us. Give it to us.
What I also want to add on to that is look in the mirror because you here. Write your story. Let people know you survived a pandemic. You are here. You come from a group of people that went through the Middle Passage that survived to be in to get to where you are today. You are here. We have a group in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas chapter, the Black Psychologists. We got a lot of licensed mental health therapists that look like you, literally look like you. They could be reached at 702-825-0802. That's 702-825-0802. And again, we are licensed therapists. We are licensed PhD level therapists who are ready and willing to help, because guess what? We look like you. We understand what you're going through. And like Marivell says, let's get rid of that stigma. Unmute, talk to somebody. And guess what? If don't nobody hear you, go to somebody, go to somebody else and say, thank you for your time. I'm gonna go to somebody who can actually listen to me and help me. Because guess what? It takes a big giant leap for you to get up and say, I need help. And it's okay. It is truly okay to say you need help. And it's truly okay to seek help. Truly okay. But again, you come from a strong line of individuals, a strong line of people. You here. So that means, guess what? You've been able to survive. You've been able to survive what got you through to where you are today. And if you need a little help to talk to get through the next phase and the next step, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, it is right there. Jackie Barker saying it. Control your narrative. You are the author of your story. I love that. There it is right there. You know, we got some great comments that's coming up on the screen here today. Dewana Malone, the tech queen, she is absolutely phenomenal. Again, I'm so elated and over the moon. I pray that the Links Las Vegas chapter get an Oscar award for this one right here, because this was a wonderful community outreach. It's so timely. It's so needed. And President Vernon Stringer, we could have probably done this for the next 2 hours, right? Because we have so many issues going on in our community. But I sincerely want to give the Links the Wakanda love, right? Because we so need it. Dr. Antone, Dotson, Parson, give us your perspective, sir, as we talk about solutions. And where do we go to? Who do we run to? What's your thoughts?
I think it's such a community effort. I was really taking in the whole conversation. I think we've all kind of said it and covered quite a bit. What I realized that we do as African-American people is that we teach our people to go to school, get an education. We teach them to hustle, become somebody. Don't fail. You know, if you make a mistake, fall, but get up. And all of that is beautiful. But what I realize is that we've taught generations and generations, because of what we've been through in this country, we've always been in survival mode. And survival mode is absolutely exhausting. It goes back to what you were saying about code switching. It goes back to what Miss Nunez was saying about being a wife in the home and having to juggle a bunch of things. It goes back to what Michael was saying about mentors in the community dealing with their own pain. We've just been on survival mode and we're exhausted. As a solution, and this may sound a little corny, but because it's a community effort, I think it's important that we each become the person we would want to help us. That's the only way we can really be sensitive to another person's trauma, to their issues, is to become a safe place for the person that I'm talking with.
Okay, I think you froze up. Yeah. Okay. I think you froze up for a second there, but Michael, go ahead, take over. Jump in, Michael.
And again, as the brother was saying, we need to become the person that we want to be. So we need to seek those things that's going to help us become that person we need to be. Again, if we're hurting, We need to find out what is the thing that's hurting us and what's making us hurt, and then go from there and work our way to, again, your goal, long-term goal, and work backwards. What do I need right now? What do I need in order to, Maslow always said, the hierarchy of need. Right now, I need to be happy. What in my life is not making me happy? Let's start looking at things and dissecting things. That right now I need to just be at peace. And being in survival mode means, guess what? I'm looking over my shoulders. My shoulders is tight. I'm ready for battle. But where are we ready for peace at? Where are we ready to just relax? Where are we ready to just be?
Yeah, that's major here for us. And then let's take this last piece, if you all will, as we talk about the vaccination. There is a lot of anxiety in the African American community, and it's tapping into a lot of our mental health, if you will. People are concerned. People are concerned with the history that America has had with African Americans in the whole medical community, from women in childbirth and women in their health issues. Fictitious studies that have been done that have impacted our lives in a very negative way. So now we have this global pandemic that's out here, and there's a vaccination that we're urging people to take. I've personally taken Pfizer. I've had both doses, right? But I've also encouraged my siblings to get vaccinated. One of my brothers took Johnson & Johnson, which he was adamant that he was never going to take any vaccination. But because he's such a public employee, he took Johnson & Johnson, and it damn near killed him. We almost had to put him in the hospital. What do we say to our community in terms of, don't let it stress you out? Pray about it. Do what you believe is in the best interest for you and your family. What's your thoughts, Marivell?
I was saying, as you know, we also have a medical clinic coupled with mental health, and we've been educating our patients on and encouraging them to take the vaccine. Everyone in our clinic did take the vaccine. We had the Moderna vaccine. No one got really sick but myself. But I'm very sensitive because I don't have a tolerance for medications or a lot of things like that, like vaccines. I don't even get the flu vaccine. But it was Dr. Rucker that said, you need to take this vaccine, not only for the patients that we serve, but also for your family. And I say, okay. I did, and I went ahead and got it. But I was sick for a couple of days, and what it was I had a headache, I had a rash, I felt very fatigued. So those are things that are treatable. But I would tell you that if you get COVID and you die, that's not treatable. So that was enough for me, right? So I took vitamins and I took herbal supplements, and I got some rest, and I'm back on track. But what I do want to say to our community is this. I understand the concerns. We do have history that tells us that they didn't play by the rules back in the day. But what I want you to know is that some of these vaccines were created and developed by Black scientists. And I can't tell you how proud I feel about that. They are looking out for our best interests. And I want you to also know that Dr. Fauci, he don't play around. What he tells you is pretty accurate. He does not have any political affiliations. He's not siding with anyone. He is public health, and that's been his life story. Moderna and Pfizer are the ones that I would recommend. Johnson & Johnson, I would say stay away from it. And the reason I say that is because it's a one-shot deal. How is it that two other very elite companies come up with 2 shots and you come up with 1? It's that, to me, that's competitive and not public health.
I think they took Marivell. I think they took the double dose and put it into one, and so it's a double punch in one shot, and it's too much for the body.
Yes, it is too much for the body, and not everybody has that kind of tolerance.
Yeah.
And I did take a look at their samples, at their nose. to see who they tested with and what populations, but I do have some concerns about it. And when Pfizer first came out, it was mostly administered to our homeless populations. That to me raises a big question. So I would say, if you're going to get the vaccination, which I strongly encourage that you do so, because COVID is still here and it's deadly. It's not like some other virus. In the beginning, everyone was saying, oh, it's like the flu, you know, you'll get sick, but you'll be fine. No, it's not. It is not like the flu. It is deadly, and we still don't have control over it.
Okay.
So please get vaccinated. If you have any questions, go to cdc.gov. There's a lot of information. There's all of the scientific projects that they did around it. It's all there. But I encourage our people to go and get vaccinated. It saves lives.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Michael, did you have any brief comments? We got about 3 minutes left before we give any closing comments.
Quickly, I lost 4 members to my family to COVID. So COVID is real. And again, get a shot. I'm encouraging individuals to just get in line, get a shot, get what you can, because this is a real pandemic. And the shot is preventative. Do as much research as you can. Not off your internet doctor, but talk to your primary physician, because the internet is going to tell you 125 different things. Talk to your primary physician. Talk to somebody whose life work is to deal with individuals who get sick and have diseases.
There you go. And I was hoping to have Dr. Antone Dotson Parson back on. I think is he here with us? Okay. All right. He's not here, but we have some closing comments that we're going to have here today. And of course, this young lady here is one of the hardest working women in our community, and we're glad to have her on with us this afternoon. Vice President of the Links Incorporated Las Vegas chapter, Mrs. Keisha Rogers. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. First of all, I just want to say awesome. This was an awesome discussion. And I just want to say, on behalf of the Las Vegas chapter of the Links Incorporated, thank you to our panelists, our community partners, as well as you, Mr. Weekly, for allowing us to have this discussion today. This here was a very needed discussion that we need to have. And again, for more information, go to our website, which is the Links Incorporated, Las Vegas chapter.org, or follow us on Las Vegas, Nevada chapter Links Incorporated on Facebook. Again, this here, I can see a series coming. Definitely, I can see a part 2. I feel it in my bones, because definitely this is something that is needed. Share this with your friends. Share this with your family. It just doesn't cater just to the youth, but adults as well. And so again, everyone can reap from this. Share this information.
Yeah. Thank you so much to the Links Incorporated Las Vegas chapter, all the community partners, this amazing panel. I'm looking at our kusai. There are our kusais. Her husband is my boule brother, of course. But Marivell, you are awesome. You are on point, and I thank you for your comments. Michael, I don't know if you were saying Hawaii, Ola, whatever that is. Yeah, and then of course we got my man Antone Dotson Parson. Guess he was having some technical issues. Thank you, 3. So this right here has to be a series. Madam President, Madam Vice President, y'all got to do a part 2 of this, because this has really blessed a lot of people today. DeWanna Malone, the Tech Queen, Power 88, and all of our community sponsors. We hope and pray that something was said here today that touched and changed someone's life. And let's continue to work together. Let's continue to talk to each other. Links, we love y'all. Let's continue to link it up and talk it up and unmute ourselves, right? Y'all have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Dr. Christie and Madam President. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.